Right now, we are seeing a rise in energy prices. We feel it at the pump, at the store, or each time we get our CUC bill. This is causing everyone to make difficult choices. Businesses are having to increase prices or reduce hours. Families are having to choose between keeping the aircon on or putting food on the table. Lieutenant Governor Arnold and Mayor Dave's commitment to our Commonwealth is demonstrated through their 30-plus years of public service. Their experiences have allowed them the opportunity to personally interact with our community during their most difficult moments, and for that, they have a better understanding of the needs of our people. The CNMI needs leaders that will promote policies that create jobs, grow paychecks, and improve the economic security of the CNMI businesses and families. We hear you, Marianas. It's time to get this government back in order. This election, please vote Arnold and Dave.
I feel that this environment is for anybody that wants to try something new, whether it is CrossFit or powerlifting. We offer a safe space for someone who's never been athletically inclined to try something that they've never done before.
Buenas and welcome to the lunch show with Kandit because I like to eat. And our very first guest on the lunch show is the previously arrested Joaquin Ken Leon Guerrero. Ken, welcome to the club.
Thank you very much.
Now we've got more in common than we did just yesterday. Today, Ken is going to talk to us about what happened yesterday. I have some thoughts about it, some very strong thoughts about what happened yesterday and about our government of Guam. But before all that, I want to say happy birthday to my sister, my oldest sister, Tammy Torres, who has not lived on Guam for a very long time. But my brother and I have always lived in her shadow. We've always been Tammy's brothers and not Brian or Troy. Yesterday was her son Tyson's birthday, and I was actually there. This was maybe 2004 when he was born, when Tammy gave birth to Tyson the day before her birthday. It's my sister's birthday, so a shout out to Tammy, and thank you so much for your thoughts. Oh, this is her boyfriend Jim, and he is undergoing back surgery tomorrow. So if you can say a prayer for him. Yeah, they have to replace his C3 or whatever that is. I don't know. My sister sent me. My sister probably got it wrong, but whatever that is, he's probably going to be in a lot of pain. My sister was a dancer, a professional dancer. I don't know if anyone remembers, but back in the 90s, I think it was the mid 90s. She, Dominic Singil, and Mike Lumika were on Star Search. Yeah, the first time Guam was ever on Star Search. It was kind of cool. Remember Star Search?
Yeah.
Yes. Remember that? Yeah. And then she went off into a career in dancing. She went to school in London. My sister, she is like this super motivated, super extroverted, had goals and all that. Very different from me. Anyway, so, family has always been important to everybody, right? And here at Kandit, we are a family as well. And one of the things that I want to say before we start with everything is that I have to show my appreciation to our family. We have two production people here, Eric and Zach. And Eric, as you know, has been out because of a situation with his family. We'll talk about in a second. But Zach is not feeling well these days. And so, and he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me that he was feeling ill. And he has a condition. We found out about it. And then I was like, look, Zach, you got to take some time off because, we need you to be okay. And this is just how much family is here for each other, where Zach feels that he cannot take a day off because he needs Kandit to succeed, but we need Zach to be alive, and we need Eric to be back as soon as possible, and he cannot be back, though he is here with us in the studio right now. Eric,
Hoppity.
and tell everyone what KFC that you just had, that you just devoured.
Dude, swallowed.
The Kentucky Fried Chicken original chicken sandwich,
yes,
with
delicious.
the best fries on Guam. KFC has always had the best fries. I just love. There was a time when they didn't have the fries, and I was like, "Why'd you guys discontinue the fries?" And then they brought it back. So what do you have, Ken?
I have the chicken strips that are fantastic.
They're as close to keto as it's going to get.
For Kentucky Fried Chicken, they are. And when you think about it, these strips are 1/5 the carb count of a regular burger and bun.
Yeah.
So even though I'm eating a chicken strip...
You have to talk to your microphone.
Oh, even though I'm eating a chicken strip that is very low in carbs compared to what I could have eaten. So the whole thing about eating keto is to manage your carb count intelligently. It doesn't mean 100% total absence of carbs. It just means focus more on the quality of the carbs you do eat. And believe me, these are very, very high quality carbs.
Yeah, I don't care about any of that. Ask me what I care about carbs. So Eric has been out, and the reason is because his sister's daughter, Araya, she's been going through a medical situation that, and she's been experiencing some very heavy and painful symptoms, including very violent seizures that doctors on Guam are not able to diagnose the source of these symptoms. And so because of that, she's being referred off island for medical care, either in the Philippines or Hawaii, right, Eric?
So it looks like we'll be going to the PI.
Okay. Okay. That you know what? In terms of they've got great care there. Number one. Number two, it's much closer to Guam.
Right.
And number three, it's cheaper to
Yeah.
to stay there. You're gonna stay in like an
So those are all
Airbnb or
factors.
something. Yeah. And so, they have for the medical care is pretty much covered, right, through Medicaid.
We hope so.
Okay, so it's not too clear whether the complete medical care is covered, but we do know that their family needs money in order to. I think it's going to be Araya's mom, who is Eric's sister, and Eric, who will be accompanying Araya in the Philippines, while Eric's mom takes care of the other kids here on Guam, and as they go to school, they're getting their passports and all that stuff, all the pre-trip arrangements done now. But it's going to cost a pretty penny, and so they've started a GoFundMe page. Now, GoFundMe is GoFundMe.com, okay? It's not GoFundMe.org. There are two. It's GoFundMe.com, and all you have to do to donate is to search for Araya May. That's Ariahmae. And if you can, spare $1 or $20 or $500, whatever you're able to donate. Please do so for Araya May's care and for the expenses that the family has to incur.
Jello, if I can add,
Yes, please.
just on behalf of my sister and my niece, for all the people that have been sending their blessings and prayers, and to all those who have donated their time or money, and we appreciate all of it. And I wish you could all meet my niece.
Yes. She is a sweetheart, a very kind person. I can tell she's going to grow up to be a very kind and giving person. And she's also very smart. And she's taken all of this in stride. And the family just wants her to be better. So thank you so much for helping our Kandit family. You know who else is a part of our Kandit family? We'll get protective. Is Ken Leon Guerrero.
Yes.
Ken,
He's our dad.
he's our dad. Well, I mean, I don't know how old you are, Chelo, but he's a little closer to my grandpa.
68.
I'm just kidding.
for the
I'm just
record.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hey,
I'm not
68,
young.
You're
I'm not
almost
young.
to that magic year.
Yeah.
And so Ken, he hosts the Point of View with Ken Leon Guerrero here on Kandit. And though we don't always agree on every issue, he is a part of our family.
Yes.
And something happened to him yesterday that is that sparks something in me and in all of us here at Kandit, because it helps us to remember things that happened to us that caused Kandit to be created. And back in those days, we didn't take this very seriously. But I mean, anyway, when we come back from this commercial break, I'm going to talk to you about how I feel about this whole situation, and then we're going to get Ken's side of the story on this. Something really has to be said about accountability in the government of Guam, or for the government of Guam's actions. But let's be more specific here. Something has to be said about government of Guam managers who move around believing that they own the government of Guam and that they are insulated from their actions simply because they are managers within the government of Guam. We have laws, and those laws are meant to apply to all of us, even if you are a government of Guam manager. And yesterday, and we'll talk more with Ken about how the whole thing started and how I was getting messages and all that. But yesterday, there was a public meeting that was held in a private room of the Hyatt Regency Guam. And this was a publicly noticed meeting, as it should have been. And all meetings within the government of Guam should be public meetings, with the exception of, according to the rules of the legislature, the caucuses the Democrat and Republican senators have with each other. So aside from those, and aside from meetings where there are non-public information being discussed, and non-public information is defined in the law as being things of a private nature, like that deal with the security of the island, or with patient medical records, tax records, things of the like. But this was a publicly noticed meeting that happened. And a member of the public, who according to the law has a right to observe these meetings, wanted to observe this meeting and was told that he could not. And then when he demanded to know from the private venue holder whether the government of Guam had paid this private venue holder to have this meeting, meaning public funds were used, he wasn't given that information, and then he was forcibly removed by the Guam Police Department for it. Now, if I were him, and he's a former police officer, so I'm guessing he understands what the police department's duty was. But if I were him, I would feel so violated on so many levels. Just like, and I know there's no comparison, because what Ken Leon Guerrero did is considered civil disobedience. And what I was arrested for back in 2018, though they were trumped up charges, it was very different. The allegations were for drug possession and trafficking. But even then, because I understood at the time that these were trumped up charges, and that it was an act of political retribution by the Ray Tenora regime, I felt violated. I felt highly violated. And it took me quite a long time for the anger to subside from that. So I can just imagine how someone like Ken, who was arrested for trying to bring us, the public, information about what the government of Guam was doing, to be arrested by the government of Guam for trying to expose what is going on at GMH. I can only imagine how violated he feels. And if he doesn't feel violated at all, hey, more props to him, more power to him. But Ken, my hat's off to you. And I'm going to guess that you kind of wanted to get arrested to prove a point. Because you're a former cop.
Yeah,
I'm
a former cop.
Okay.
And I know what the boundaries are of the box. There's
Sure.
a box. I know what the boundaries are. And so when it became obvious to me that I was going to run into resistance from the management of Guam Memorial Hospital to being able to stay there, I wanted to make a point. And the point is that the public's right to know supersedes any other point.
Just bring the microphone closer.
The public's right to know supersedes any other point that they were trying to make for themselves. And we only have to go back to 2014 when senators met in an unnoticed secret session and gave themselves massive retroactive pay raises. That's why we as taxpayers, as citizens, have every right to attend these meetings, and I like your logo, the light, because that's what we do here at Kandit. We shine light in dark places. We shine light where most people don't know to go to.
I didn't know that there was a meeting that was going to be held at the Hyatt Regency. Now, what is going through your mind as you read the public notice about where this meeting was going to be and all of the headlines about how GMH cannot afford proper pediatric care, cannot afford proper equipment and supplies, cannot afford to fix its leaking, I'm sorry, they're actually doing that now, cannot afford to replace the electrical panel, to get more parking stalls for the public and for patients, cannot afford to renovate the maternity ward. What is going through your mind about a meeting at the Hyatt Regency?
Well, first of all, it wasn't noticed. That was the first red flag, because for the past 6 weeks, I have been working diligently on using FOIAs with the administration, with the governor's office, with Guam Memorial Hospital, and with GITA, trying to find out information behind this new Guam Memorial Hospital, because they're talking about huge numbers here. And for those of you who've been following me, you know that since 2010, I have been engaged with Guam Memorial Hospital because that's our public health care lifeboat for those of us who don't have the money to be able to fly. And, you know, the lead-in story talking about having to raise funds to go to the Philippines to get something addressed because we can't take care of it here. That's
not just that, Ken. The entire pandemic response has been predicated upon GMH's ability to handle care.
Yeah.
That's every single public policy decision that has been made during the pandemic has been predicated upon GMH's capacity.
Yeah, and they brag about it too. That's they brag about how well they've been able to do. But you know, let me set the stage for you. Right?
Oh wait. I don't want you to tell the story yet. That's when we come back when we come back from this commercial break. We're going to hear what happened. We're going to hear the play-by-play of what happened. But so when we come back, thank you.
Have a day. My name is Leslie Salazar.
Hi, I'm Christine.
Hi, my name is Troy Torres.
I'm 33 years old, a mom of 2, and a full-time educator.
I'm 41, and I've been in an eternal struggle with my weight.
Part of being healthy is time consuming, and with Ignite, I can put more time on my mental, physical, and emotional state, which is really convenient for me because I'm always rushing.
I come to Ignite to get the acai bowls, the one with protein in it, and I also like the Revive drinks, the one with the cayenne pepper. It has a kick. It's got a kick to it that gets my day started.
So I go to Ignite mostly after a workout because I do go to the gym that is right next to the Denito location. So it's just really convenient to get a quick drink or a quick meal in right after a workout to supplement my body.
Cold pressed juice is a really big thing back in the States, and I feel so happy and glad that I can have a familiar taste. So I can also taste the real ingredients, and it's so convenient.
So Ignite helps me lead a healthier lifestyle, mostly for the convenience because I am a busy mom and a full-time employee, so I don't really have time to prep any of my meals. So Ignite kind of helps me with that in that I can just go there to pick up something really quickly and feel like I'm feeding my body with good stuff versus like the drive-thrus and things like that.
I mean, you can go to different places. You can follow your doctor's advice to be healthy and do these things that just aren't fun. But to feel healthy and to be healthy at the same time and for it to taste good, that's what makes this place unique. Hi. Welcome back. Eric's a bit rusty at the production desk. He's been out for about a month. About a month. It's okay. We got this, Guam. So Ken, what happened?
Well, for the past 6 weeks, I've been working very hard getting this information to the point where I had to go to court and get a court order directing the governor of Guam to do the job she swore she would do, and that is to follow the law on Freedom of Information Acts. Now, once I got the court order, then the information began to flow. And it was, I mean, the numbers I'm looking at, hundreds of pages of documents are scaring the hell out of me, because basically it looks like we're on a road to a $2 billion public debt. And so when Ray Gibson sent me the agenda for this meeting that someone leaked to him, and I couldn't find any public notice about this meeting, so I had to go there. So first I went to Guam Memorial Hospital because I didn't know where the meeting was going to be, and neither did Ray. And they told me it was going to be at the at the Hyatt. So I went down to the Hyatt. I signed in like everybody does, and I walked in, I sat down at the table, and I was there for an hour and a half, sitting there waiting for this meeting to start. But they were having some technical problems getting their laptops hooked up to the digital projectors, and then Lillian Posadas walks in, and the next thing I know, I'm getting pulled aside by the legal counsel for the Guam Memorial Hospital.
Jeremiah Luther, right?
Yeah, who wants me to leave.
Okay.
And let me set the stage for you.
Okay.
It's going to be criminal trespass.
Criminal
Can you make it loud?
trespass.
Yes, they're requesting that you leave.
I'm
What's he
sorry,
saying?
but I'm paying for this room.
You're paying for this room.
Taxpayer dollars. I'm a taxpayer.
Who's paying for this function?
Who's paying for the room? Attorney. Mr. Attorney, who's paying for this room? Is Guam Memorial Hospital paying for this room?
Mr. Leon Guerrero, I've made my position clear. I'm not going to be part of your protest.
Okay. Well, let's get management up here and find out who's paying for this room. And if it's not Guam Memorial Hospital, is it the company that's being paid by Guam Memorial Hospital, which is taxpayer funds? Or you could bring out the mace and make sure I get it all on video.
They did say this is a private session. It's not open to the public. They informed you that it's not open to the public, right?
It is not a private
It's not
function.
open to the public, right? That's what they informed you. They said it's a private session between you and personnel. It's not open to the public. They said it's private, and even Hyatt personnel said you have to leave. Okay?
But it's being paid for by taxpayer
you're not
dollars,
paying for
and
this
as a
room, okay?
taxpayer, I have a
Sir?
right to be here.
If Hyatt personnel are telling you to leave, you have to leave. You understand?
No.
You don't
I am a
understand?
taxpayer.
Okay, let's
This
go.
is being paid by
Okay,
taxpayer
put down the
dollars.
phone. Let's go, sir.
Okay.
So what was the agenda of this meeting?
Well, based on what I was able to see on the agenda, it looked like they were talking about planning a new hospital. In fact, one of the consultants came up to me and was bragging about how their firm is one of the largest firms in the United States designing and building healthcare
That is absolutely
facilities.
public information.
Yeah. So as
That cannot be a private function of the hospital.
Yeah, and that's what I pointed out. I pointed out to the attorney, you're talking about building a new hospital.
Which
You're
is a $1
talking-
billion feat.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're talking about public funds, you're talking about bonds, you're talking about assets, you're talking about moving parcels of land
You know,
which are owned
that
by
just
the public.
that just pisses me off. I want to know from Lillian Posadas, Jeremiah Luther, the governor of Guam, and everyone who is in this meeting, whether they're the ones who are going to pay for that damn hospital, whether they're the ones who are going to fork out the $1 billion, or whether that's public funds that will be used. They cannot hide that kind of meeting from the public.
No, but that's the whole point. Until we as citizens stand up and defend our rights. Nelson Mandela is one of my inspirations, and one of my favorite quotes from him is, if you don't stand up for your rights, you won't have them.
So you were arrested for trying to get us the information about what the government of Guam is going to do that's going to cost us $1 billion.
Yes. And not only that, but that's not the end of the story, because what we're looking at is a $200 million a year operating cost for the hospital.
Yeah.
And they only get $90 million a year in revenues. Ever since Governor Leon Guerrero destroyed the financial structure of Guam Memorial Hospital when she had Bill 30 introduced and passed, the one that I had to fight in federal court to get it overruled, Take Care actually won that battle. But the whole point is, they are playing fast and loose with our lives and our money. And we're the ones that are suffering, because right now we have a hospital that's falling apart, and rather than spending money repairing it. She's holding it in a bank account for some mythical day that she's going to build a new hospital on Guam. But we know, based on Simon Sanchez, that even if everything went smoothly, it'd be 10 or 15 years before that hospital is built. Our people are suffering now. And that's what I've been fighting for, because the Army Corps even identified $21 million worth of urgently needed repairs. If she took that $21 million out of the 300, the quality of the medical service we would be getting at Guam Memorial would be even better. Now, let's take the story a step further. Police officers did a great job. I'm a former police officer.
So
I've been in their situation.
They did their job.
They did their job.
Because they got a private complaint of criminal trespass.
Yeah, and they had to process.
Okay.
No objections. They were very professional. And as a former police officer, I'm very proud at the way they handled themselves.
And you're not upset with the Hyatt staff either?
Not the Hyatt
because
staff.
Because it was a private venue.
Yeah.
But it's Guam Memorial Hospital. It's the government of Guam.
Yes, and the legal counsel. Because the legal counsel should have known better. Because the moment taxpayer dollars are used, it becomes a public event. And Troy outlined the exceptions, which are very few. Now, the reason why it's important for us as taxpayers to know these things, because government of Guam officials have a tendency to do things behind closed doors that have adverse effects on us. And that's something I've been fighting for years, like Guam YTK, the Guam Resource Recovery Partners, Manhita Farms. What happens, government of Guam officials get together and they say, hey, I got a great idea, let's do this. And then taxpayers are the ones that get stuck with the bill. So that's why it's so important for us as citizens that we watch them closely. And that's why when I did the initiatives, one of the initiatives was Corrupt Practices Act that would allow us as citizens to hold government officials, both elected, appointed, and civil service, accountable when they break the law or violate established rules, regulations, and procedures in such a way that costs taxpayers money. So it's no surprise that the Election Commission said that you're not going to get that initiative. So I'm in the process of crafting a lawsuit on that, because that's the one that's most important. When all of us as citizens have the ability to hold government officials accountable for abuse and misuse of power and authority and funds in our name, we're the ones that are hurt. We should be able to hold them accountable. But as it is right now, they skate. You know, when the people made a mistake at Port a few years ago and hired Kevin Sasuiko, he didn't do anything wrong. He honestly put on his application he did not qualify. The fact that he got hired was an error of management. The fact that taxpayers ended up spending somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million with attorney's fees and settlements, who got punished? Not the manager that made the mistake or blew it. The taxpayers got punished. So that's nearly $1 million that didn't go into fixing a school or didn't go into buying badly needed equipment for Guam Memorial Hospital. I remember one time when my mother-in-law was in the emergency room and they wrote me a prescription and told me to take it down to Mega Drugs because they didn't have the drugs there at the hospital. This happens way too often. That's why I watch Guam Memorial Hospital. That's why of all the FOIAs I've done, and I've done almost 200 FOIAs over the years, the majority of the FOIAs that I execute are on government of Guam's hospital and related facilities and public health care, because that is so critical for our people, because that's our only public hospital. Guam Regional, nice hospital, beautiful hospital, but they can accept or reject who they take as clients. And remember, right after they opened, they closed their maternity ward and they started restricting services that were the reason why that hospital was supposed to exist. So they've shifted the entire burden to Guam Memorial, and Guam Memorial needs to be fixed now. There's a lot of problems that need to be fixed now. There's a lot of equipment they need to fix now, and I know that because I was just in the emergency room yesterday as a part of my arrest.
I was going to ask, what happened?
Okay, the cars the police have are crappy. They're Dodges. Dodge cars are not designed to be police vehicles. You cannot get someone in the back seat of one of those cars safely. So in the process of trying to get me handcuffed into the back seat of that car, we hit my head on the safety shield, and I lost vision in my right eye. I could not focus my right eye, and that freaked me out. So the officers immediately called an ambulance, which is what they should have done, and that's what they did.
Okay.
The ambulance got me up to the hospital, and I was commenting to the officers. I said, "Are you going to arrest me again?" Because I was under instructions not to be anywhere near this event. And at 2 o'clock on the schedule, I remember at 2 o'clock there's going to be a facility tour, and at 2 o'clock we're still in the emergency room. So I asked him, "So if they come through here, are you going to arrest me again?" He
Oh,
didn't
my
have a very
goodness.
good sense of humor. But the point was, I was back in the emergency room again, and I was in there for 3.5 hours before I saw a doctor. So this shows me where we need to be putting that $300 million. It's not in a new facility. We should be taking about half of that and putting it into bringing our existing facility up to today's standards, making sure they have the kind of equipment they need to take care of us, make sure they have sufficient pharmaceuticals.
They should
to
be
take
they
care
should
of
be
us.
working on an expansion of the emergency or whatever it is that throughout the pandemic the administration has complained about. We do not have the capacity to treat so many different people if they come in for COVID and then the regular, illnesses that everybody comes in for, which was the reason that we had the restrictions.
Yeah.
Everything was about Guam Memorial Hospital's capacity.
Yeah.
So until they're able to expand the hospital's capacity to meet the needs of a future pandemic, I don't know why there are closed room discussions happening with it was a private company, right? A consultant
yeah.
with a private company about $1 billion deal. It just stinks to high heaven.
Well, as you know, I just executed a FOIA over at GITA. I got all the documents leading up, because remember, Governor Leon Guerrero said that the charrettes have been held, the public meetings have been held, and they're going ahead. Well, when I got these documents, I learned that the charrette has not been done. No public meetings have been held. None of the stakeholders have been included in any of the discussions, and yet she's going ahead.
I think the media needs to do a lot of fact checking whenever any of the candidates say anything during debates.
Yeah.
Because, we've seen the governor has had a tendency to say things that were not accurate.
Yeah.
A case in point being this thing about the charrettes happening and et cetera, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, they're playing fast and loose with our lives.
Yes.
Because Guam Memorial isn't adequately maintained. There's no guarantee this new hospital will be adequately maintained. I mean, go to the Guam Museum. Already it's falling apart, and you go to the bathrooms there, and half the stalls in the men's room are closed off.
I don't think there's a debate that we do need a new hospital.
Yeah.
But it's just that, well, what about the current Guam Memorial Hospital? While that new hospital is being built, that's still years of care that GMH will need to provide to our community. And another pandemic can come up during that time, or another mass casualty event can come up during that time. And let's not forget about the babies that need to be born at Guam Memorial Hospital during that time. There was I think there's a situation going on now with pediatric care that one of the doctors sent some information coming from another doctor and issues with the OBGYNs and the maternity ward. It just, the crap hit at the fan over at Guam Memorial Hospital. But what happens next?
Well, what happens next is I'm going to drop another FOIA on Monday, because if I drop the FOIA today on this new group, because I was at Guam Memorial reviewing their documentation, they had nothing on this, so they claim. I was at GITA just the day before this meeting, and GITA had none of this documentation. So when I saw this HDR group, I'm like, who the hell are these people? I mean, I've just gone through, hundreds of pages of documents leading up to today's event, and I never saw anything with HDR. So that's why I asked one of the people, who is HDR? What do you do? And they told me, oh, yes, we're one of the largest engineering firms building healthcare facilities in the United States. Okay, Now we have that. Then we have Luther talking about in the press releases that have been circulating that it was a planning meeting for the new Guam Memorial Hospital. So that justifies why I was there. And on the list of attendees, one of them is stakeholders. I'm a stakeholder. I've identified myself as a stakeholder to both GITA and to Guam Memorial Hospital, and requested to be copied on notices of any public meetings regarding Guam Memorial Hospital or GITA on these subjects, Guam Memorial Hospital and bonds and things like that.
Do you think if you were a Democratic candidate for senator that you would have been asked to leave that room?
That's a really good question. And I honestly think I probably would have, just because they're trying to keep this close held, you know?
Do you think the Guam Police Department would have been called?
No, I don't think Guam Police Department
If
would
you
have
were
been
a
called.
Democratic
If I were a
candidate
Democrat.
for
I don't
senator.
think so.
Or if you weren't Ken Leon Guerrero.
Or if I wasn't Ken Leon
Yeah.
Guerrero.
Yeah.
If I was a different person, I don't know how they would have handled it, because what I see all too often is government of Guam officials using their position to bully people.
This is an abuse of power.
Yeah, it
For
is.
sure.
It is. That's why, I got started in this. So many people would come up to me and have me speak in their behalf. And I'd say, well, why don't you say it? And they say, well, I'm afraid. And then they would tell me why they're afraid. And that's what's led to me starting Guam Citizens for Public Accountability, which I did for many, many years on a wide variety of subjects, even going right back to giving in 2018. August 2018, I was the first person to outline why this would be one of the most corrupt administrations in the history of Guam. And if you go back and look at the video I did in 2018, you'll see that everything I predicted in that video has been happening. And that's what's scary, because I don't like being that accurate in these types of things. I would have been pleasantly surprised to be proven wrong on this, but we're talking about people's lives. We're talking about people's health. We're talking about the safety of our community. And politicians are playing fast and loose. I mean, look at where they're having this meeting. They're having the meeting at the Hyatt. Why weren't they having the meeting in the conference room at the hospital?
Or the cabinet conference room at Adelup, which is a big enough venue.
In a publicly owned facility.
Or in the museum.
The museum.
Yeah.
Excellent
Or
idea.
a government house.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of venues where you could have had this meeting that wouldn't have cost money.
Yeah, but the whole point is they don't respect the taxpayers' dollars.
More than that, they believe they own the taxpayer dollars.
Oh, yeah.
That is a very clear judgment call that I'm going to make right now about what the people in that room thinks about us as taxpayers and thinks about the public funds they are using and they're commanding.
Yeah. When you look at the fact that 80% of our population is working in the service sector, and the majority of them are in low-wage service sector jobs, many people having to have 2 or 3 jobs just to break even with the basics of life: rent, utilities, food.
Yeah.
And then to go ahead and have meetings in places like the Hyatt, and that's not going to be cheap. I've gone through the Guam Memorial checkbook for 2019 and 2020 off and on, looking at where they're spending the money, and I'm just horrified. I mean, I can honestly say that one of the worst things I've ever seen was going through and looking at the abuse of funds that we're seeing at Guam Memorial Hospital, because here we have an institution that the administration gutted financially with the passage of Bill 30. And we see that happening now. So the donut hole, in other words, Guam Memorial used to be nearly self-sufficient. They only needed about $10 million a year during the Calvo administration. Now they need $30 to $40 to $50 million a year as a result of being gutted financially by this administration. And now
Eddie Calvo will be pleasantly surprised to hear you say that.
Well, I'm going to say...
You were one of Eddie Calvo's biggest critics. And so
I was one of Eddie Calvo's biggest critics, but this is one thing I'm not critical about. During Eddie Calvo's administration, I very rarely had to issue FOIAs, because during his administration, 95% of the time, whatever information I wanted was offered freely, without hesitation.
That was my policy.
That was his policy.
That was my policy.
And the only time I had to issue FOIAs during the Calvo administration was when I would get a phone call back from somebody like Lester Carlson, and he would say, Ken, due to the nature of your request right here, I need a FOIA from you for our files.
That was definitely not part of our policy.
Well,
so you should have given me a call about it at the time.
Well, the point is, very rarely did that ever happen. 99% of the time during the Calvo administration, when I requested information, it was like, okay, we'll have it in the conference room. Let us know when you're going to be coming by. And that was the policy 99% of the time. And the few times I had to do a FOIA, it wasn't adversarial like it is with the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration. So here's a case in point. With Lester Carlson, because of what I was asking for at the time, he requested that I do a FOIA, but he would have the information ready for me.
Yeah.
And that was fine. Totally fine.
With this
right within the book.
With this administration, you have to wait for the extension that they would demand.
Well,
not request.
Yeah, I would have to wait for the extension,
Yes.
and then when I give them the extension, they would ask for another extension.
Yes.
Or
Which is
I
not
would
even
have to
within
go
the
to
law.
court.
Yeah.
Or I have to go to court.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do. I had to go to court and get a judge to sign an order. So think about that. This administration cost me, a senior citizen living on a fixed income, I had to pay $300 out of my own money to get an order from a judge to tell the governor to follow the law that she swore to follow when she took her oath of office.
Colin Clark says, while people are complaining this guy is acting, opening the door for the people to see the hypocrisy of this administration. And Teresa Garcia says, thank you, Ken, for stepping up. Much respect to you. David Rowley says, bingo, they own us. Good choice of words, Troy.
Well, that's their attitude. And I remember when we were talking, there was an interview about the business privilege tax rolled back, and the governor, and I have this recording, she says, well, my checking account, that's how she's talking about the general fund. My general fund, that's the word.
My general fund,
Yeah,
yes.
she says, my general fund. When she campaigned, she talked about how it was unnecessary to have these taxes, and I'm going to go into more detail on point of view either tomorrow or Saturday. But what's happening in the back rooms is we are being set up. And when I say we're being set up, that 1% or more on the business privilege tax, and this relates to Guam Memorial Hospital, because in the documentation I got through my FOIA, we discovered that they are looking at the increase in borrowing power as a result of that 1%, because at the end of the Calvo administration, we had somewhere between $50 and $90 million on our debt ceiling left, because he had borrowed and borrowed and borrowed to the point where the borrowing power of Guam was less than 100 million, somewhere between 50 and 90.
Yes.
This document I discovered shows that with property value increases, going back to that reappraisal process that's been going on, we now have 358 million of borrowing capacity. And that scares the hell out of me, having $358 million more that we could borrow against, because already our debt service is approaching $100 million a year. That's 1 out of 5 tax dollars that the government creates is going to debt service. When Puerto Rico hit 1 out of 6 is when they had to go to the President of the United States on bended knee and ask for federal receivership. We are so close to that number right now, it's not even funny. And the governor is pretending that our island is blossomed under her financial management. Well, under her financial management, we were heading to another red year before COVID hit. And after COVID hit, you dropped $2 billion. Yeah, thank you for the.
Thank you for
you
the
dropped
federal
$2 billion of federal funds into our economy. That's why she was able to roll back the deficits. It wasn't through her astute financial management.
One of the one of the more golden pieces that came out of the debate that happened, the governor's debate that happened at the Chamber of Commerce, was when Governor Camacho said, "You got $2 billion. Even Mickey Mouse could have done what you did."
Absolutely. And then on top of that, we have this inflation that's going on. And so we have inflation on top of inflated taxes with that 5% gross
Ken,
business
you're going to
tax.
have to save this for point of view. We went really well. We went on several tangents here, and it's lunch hour is over. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for your civil disobedience and for being able to step. No, really, for stepping up where most of us would not, putting yourself out there, and you got arrested for simply trying to get information to the public that GMH was trying to hide from the public. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres, and I was
I'm Ken
very
Leon
proud
Guerrero.
to have been joined here by Ken Leon Guerrero and our producer, Eric Rosario. Have a great day.